Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be going through Benchmade versus Spyderco versus Microtech, just kind of weighing some of the pros and cons of each different American knife company. These three are widely considered to be three of the biggest and most common knife companies in America. Spyderco has a lot of products that are made outside of America, but specifically we're just going to be talking about the ones that are coming from the Golden, Colorado factory today. Microtech also has some collaborations that are made in China, but that's generally just a handful of their specific models. Majority of Microtechs are 100% made in the USA, which is great. And Benchmade is also made in the USA, which is great. I think every single knife that Benchmade makes is made in the USA, so that's a big win. But we'll just be going through that today, whether you're brand new to knives and looking at purchasing one of the more higher end knives that you kind of see around in stores or hear people talk about, or you're experiencing, you just, like to hear people talk about knives in the background and share opinions. So we'll start with Benchmade here. Benchmade, again, I think has one of the largest catalogs of American knife manufacturers. They have tons and tons of knives. They've been around since the 90s, which puts them ahead of a lot of the other companies that aren't as old or haven't been in America as long, and that gives them a pretty big edge. Benchmade is kind of known for their designs. As frustrating as it can be to buy a Benchmade sometimes, they do have, some of the best, in my opinion, designs in the market, some of the nicest colors and most broad options for, what you're looking to buy. So I have a lot of Benchmades, generally have been happy with them. I know Benchmade gets a ton of hate. I try to be as unbiased and neutral as possible when it comes to talking about a lot of these companies, because I know a lot of people have strong feelings one way or another, but I really like that. It is the one positive thing I will say about Benchmade is I really like their designs. Their lock is really strong. The crossbar lock has been around for a long time. This company pioneered that and made it, popular today and kind of put it into common use, which is fantastic. All kinds of different colors, different designs, different uses, across the board. They have a design for just about everything, and they are cool looking. They use materials, they feel sturdy in the hand. Like, this is one of my favorite knives, the tagged out, and I really like this thing. It just feels fantastic. Some of their knives coming from the factory do not really feel great, which sucks. And you kind of have to get them tuned up, but it is what it is. I try to not be a super Benchmade hater, as frustrating as it can be sometimes, to support them. However, one thing I will say about Benchmade, again, is their fantastic warranty. And, all these companies have great warranties, Benchmade, Spyderco, and Microtech. They're based in America, at least all of them are. Benchmade is primarily and purely America. So it's very easy to talk to customer service and get whatever you need fixed. No questions asked. You send in your knife and they'll fix it up, and it's great because their springs break a lot. So you're gonna make sure you want to have a good warranty for a company, especially if their product may not last forever, and they'll take care of you. Benchmade, out of all these three, is the only company that I have experience with their customer service. I think I've talked to Microtech on the phone once or twice just to ask questions, but never actually had to get anything fixed by them or send anything in. I've never had any problems in that regard, just kind of asking questions. Benchmade, I have got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm gonna have to get this shootout fixed by them. So I've interacted with them a handful of times, and sometimes it takes longer than others to get your product back and all fixed up and in good shape, but they do come back. They're in good shape. They replace all the parts. They'll take care of you. So that is two areas where Benchmade is strong: their warranty and the design choices and the vast array of different kinds of knives that you can buy. I think they just look great. They really do look better than a lot of the knives on the market today, at least in my opinion. That is obviously a preference thing, but that is one of their strong suits. So we'll leave it at that with Benchmade for now before we come back and and we trash the springs in a few minutes here. But next we'll move on to Spyderco. So Spyderco has factories in, I think at this point, a lot of the Asian countries. So Japan, China, Taiwan, and I think Italy as well. is the other, that's like the European one. And then Golden, Colorado is the last big factory where they do the Paramilitary 2, Para 3, a lot of their big models, the Shaman, whatever you want to call it, the Native line. And they've slowly said in, different videos and interviews that they're trying to bring a lot of their manufacturing back to the States, which is fantastic. And I really support that. I think that's a great thing, but they are not entirely based in America. They just do have, they're one of their big factories in Golden, Colorado. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of things to talk about with Spyderco. And the one thing that I tell people is, even though they have ugly designs and the knives don't really look, they don't really look great if you've never seen them before, you're not used to them. They come just about every single time absolutely flawless from the factory. And when you're paying upwards of, I don't know, in my opinion, if you pay over $100 for a knife, it should come absolutely perfect from a factory. But especially if you're paying well into the 100s, even into the 200s sometimes, they should be coming perfect, ready to go. They shouldn't really need many adjustments. You shouldn't need to be tightening down any screws or doing anything, sharpening. So these knives come razor sharp every time from the factory. The points are always fantastic. I'm trying to show it on the camera. And I've had this for a long time and they hold up. So you can touch them up real well. If you're not prying with them or doing all kinds of crazy stuff, you're really just cutting, they will last you a very long time and they will hold an edge for a very long time. The construction of them is always real sturdy. You always have a centered blade. The locks are always great. The blade's not going to wiggle on you at all. And overall, they're just very well built. You can feel the quality in your hand when you hold a Spyderco. And that's something that I think is fantastic, especially, when you have certain other companies. I'll try to be positive in this part of it. But when you have other companies charging a lot more than Spyderco to have knives that aren't sharpened well, aren't ground well, and that don't last a long time and break, it's really frustrating. So it's very nice that Spyderco has maintain their quality control and you always know what you're getting when it comes from the Spyderco factory. So that's fantastic. The other thing I'll say about Spyderco, again, I don't have any direct experience with their warranty department, but a lot of people online, you can read a lot of glowing reviews about Spyderco. If you have any problems at all, if they mess up anything, they will make you whole. Whether it's sending your knife in and having them fix it up and send it back to you, or just sending you a new knife altogether. They will take care of you, especially in the States. I don't really know how the warranty works overseas or in other countries, but I know if you're in the States, they will take care of you. And it's, that's again, something that you should look into before you make a big purchase on a knife, is how's the warranty, and how's the customer service, not just the warranty. So great things about Spyderco, extremely well built, not super overpriced. They're getting pricier now with some of these new models that are coming out and such, but still pretty reasonable as far as pricing and their fit into the industry goes. So that's always great. And the customer service is going to be there, and they're moving production back to the States. So that's where we'll stick with Spyderco for now before we come back to that. And then finally, we'll end with Microtech here for the pros column. I have not had a Microtech that long. I got one, I don't know. My first one was probably closing in on a year now. I don't know, maybe a couple months, like 9 months or so. But as soon as I bought one and I went and I held it for the first time, it became very apparent to me why they are leaders in the industry at that price point, at the higher end. Knives, especially automatic out the fronts, as well as I have some of their other folding ones I'll show in a second here. But I picked this thing up for the first time and it just felt so much better than any automatic knife or out the front or whatever you want that I've ever held, that I immediately was like, okay, it makes sense. Like this is why people love Microtech. These knives are fantastic. The edge coming from the factory, you can kind of see it on there, is quite thin. It's not a huge edge, but it is absolutely razor sharp. Every single Microtech that I've held in a store and every single one that I've bought has come razor sharp, a flawless edge, even grind and such. And they don't really need any touch-ups, tune-ups, and whatnot coming from the factory. They are 100% made in the USA. I don't know about all these other companies because they don't put it on the box, but I know the Microtech box says 100% made in the USA. And that's something I'll touch on for a second. A lot of these companies that I don't mean to bash anybody right now, but that claim to be made in the USA, for example, like I don't know for sure, but the Livewire, Kershaw's Automatics claim to be made in the USA. And what I do know is Case made in the USA. It's like the Case folders that are made in the USA. They only have to be 51% made in the USA for them to claim it is made in the USA. So it could be, basically half manufactured in the USA, which is still good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to slander anybody or say anything poor about these companies. It's great that they are made in the USA, but you might not always be getting that 100% made in the USA. And so for Microtech to advertise that and put it on their boxes is awesome. Again, like Kershaw could be, and I don't know. The Livewire, their automatics might be. I don't know, but they don't put that on the box. So I'm just we'll leave it at that for now. Still great that those companies are USA based and such, and they make in the USA. That's great. But Microtech again is adamant that this is 100% made in the USA. They make their own screws. That's why they've got this funky hardware on them, which is going to be changing soon. But that's why they've got the funky screws, because they made them in the USA. The steel is made in the USA. Bowler's a German company, but they have a plant in the USA that makes the Microtech M390. So that's huge. I mean, that's a huge thing to me. They have, I will say, a limited number of designs, but within those designs, there are a million different colors and blade shapes and blade colors and such. So this is the Ultratech. You can get the Ultratech in like red, blue, green, tan, black. I think they make white, purple, pink, orange. So there's tons of different colors, and you can also get the blacked out blade. You can get the stonewash blade, satin blade. You can get drop point, dagger style. There's a million different blade configurations with this, along with color configurations. So there's a knife for everybody out there with the Ultratech. Some of their other designs, they're slowly working to improve that. And that is one thing I will say about Microtech too. They really have started to expand over the past year or two. They've launched a ton of different new models, different colors. The whole Ramlock series, which I absolutely love. These all just kind of got released. So this Amphibian and MSI, and there's the Stitch as well. They're coming out with all different kinds of colors of these as well, and blade finishes, which is fantastic, which is really cool to see. And they're really just made at a very high standard, and they have very high standards of quality control there. So this is the MSI. This is plastic handles and M390 steel, and you're going to be paying the same as you are for a Benchmade bug out, which is also plastic handles with no liners and S30V steel. Again, so you see the size comparison there. The MSI is way bigger than the bug out. It's way stockier, so it's a bigger chunk of steel, and it's basically the same price. Now, the Ram lock, I know was very controversial at first because it had some issues. However, Microtech fixed it. Those issues do not exist anymore, and they're continuing to come out with different colors and models, and they're really listening to the customers with that, especially with their new stuff that's coming out, the Cypher, like they're taking the glass breaker off. They're going to change the screws to be torque screws. So they really are doing a fantastic job at listening to what the customers want and trying to keep prices reasonable. Like there's no reason that a knife that's also plastic, it doesn't have I don't think there are steel liners in here. Maybe a little bit of a liner, and a backspacer to keep it sturdy. Like this knife, what I will say to anybody that's super Benchmade fan and has never held a Microtech, go try to find an MSI and hold it, and you'll just be able to feel it immediately when you pick it up. I mean, just the difference in craftsmanship, quality, design, everything compared to like a bug out or something. And that's not to bash Benchmade or anything, but the pricing for something like this being the same as a bug out is it's amazing that they're keeping it this low, and especially with everything being made in the USA. So that's fantastic. So Microtech, I have nothing but positive things to say about them. We can talk about some cons that I've read about later, but I've had a fantastic experience with them. They are pricier, so I guess that's maybe one of the things, but they are, virtually indestructible, it feels like. And I haven't necessarily tested that myself, but there are a lot of people that have. And I'll try and find some videos to put below here. But we'll come back around to talk about some of the poor things about Benchmade. So the price is obviously the number one thing that people talk about online. These knives are outrageously priced, and I have tried to be, again, I try to not be a super Benchmade hater, and they're very overpriced because you're paying for obviously the brand name, but you're also paying for the warranty that comes with a Benchmade knife. You have that Life Sharp service, which will, for the lifetime of the knife, make sure it's free sharpening, and they'll fix anything, no questions asked. You just send it to them, they'll send it back. So they have a fantastic warranty, and that's what you're paying for a little bit. However, again, like I just talked about, the MSI being the same price as a bug out, like that gigantic knife being the same price as a bug out, is kind of insane, because Microtech also offers a warranty where they'll fix anything for you. Now, they do charge you to sharpen it and fix it up and take care of it, but again, I would rather pay way less and, oh, by the way, not need a warranty because there's no Omega springs in an MSI than I would to pay up front for the warranty and have to take advantage of it. Like so, that's again, you just have to keep in mind you are paying for that warranty. The other big thing with Benchmade is these springs do break. Maybe back in the day when Benchmade was really growing and becoming popular in the early 2000s and even into the 2010s, the springs were a lot sturdier and more durable, and people weren't really breaking as much. But I have already broken springs in all of these. Frankly, I don't use them that much. I mean, I do. I'll flick them open from time to time, but nothing like sitting with them constantly and playing with them that would add extra wear to the springs and break them. Like I had this bug out for like 2 months and the spring broke and I had to just send it back in. It took 3 weeks to get it back. So that's really frustrating. Again, that being said, I do love the designs and they are real cool knives to have and the locks are sturdy, but to have a knife for 2 months and pay that kind of money and then just have it break and have to wait to send it in and get fixed is really frustrating. The other thing that is really frustrating, I was going to put out a video about this because I was so mad, but I'm going to try to not completely bash Benchmade again here. I have had this for 5 or 6 months, I think now, and barely used it, barely opened it, barely touched it. I just was getting it out to use it the other day, and I used it, and the spring chassis just came flying out and got stuck, and it broke. So I'll add some of the pictures in here so you can see, but there's this little part that kind of moves along the slide to I guess stop the spring or whatever, and that part just broke. I mean, it just up and snapped off and broke off, and that's what caused it to, the blade wouldn't come out, so that's that the springs don't work anymore. So super frustrating. I'm gonna have to send this in through a dealer to get it fixed. And again, I've had it, but 5 or 6 months and barely used it. It looks brand new. You can kind of see I haven't used it the whole time. I use it a little bit for yard work, but nothing crazy. I've had this Ultratech probably longer, just as long, never had a single issue. You get the occasional misfire, but it is what it is. You just clean it out and put some oil on it. I will say I love the colors and look of the shootout. So I really, really like the design of it, but if it's gonna break, that's ridiculous. This is, I think, I paid $200 some, or it retails for $300 now. And to have it break without even doing anything wrong with it is ridiculous. There's no Omega springs in it, so that's just, you can't blame it on the springs breaking. It's just poor, poor quality control, poor materials being used. But it's to me, that's just unacceptable. So that's something to keep in mind with Benchmade. Their quality has really gone downhill. If you've been in the knife game for a long time, and they were at one point fantastic. That's something to keep in mind. So if you're paying a really high price for something, it should last you, and to have a real high price and real low quality is really frustrating to see. So there's some of the negatives that come with Benchmade. I didn't really even try to talk about the fact that they don't always come sharp or ground well, but we'll move on. With Spyderco, I think the one big thing that is a little irking with some of the Spyderco knives is the ugly unergonomic design when it comes to opening it with your hands. Sometimes this will get a little sharp if you don't have gloves on, and it'll just kind of wear on your hands a little bit, and you'll have a callous thumb, which is sometimes frustrating, versus just being able to easily ride it open and get it open. But that's kind of a nitpicky thing. That's not really that big of a deal. They are relatively easy to open and use. It just depends on the knife. It depends on the size of your hand. And again, like I said, they always do come great from the factory, almost pretty much just about every time perfect. There's a lot of aftermarket support for them. You can get, like, I got these scales that are from AWP. They're blemished, but real cheap. Just throw them on. They're aluminum, which is fantastic. Another bad thing about Spyderco, the prices are coming up, but they do have sales, so that's a plus. But you know, the inflation will drive the prices up over time. I'm not saying that they have no right to increase its prices. So that's with Spyderco. I think they're a great company. I like their products, and I don't have a whole lot other to say other than that. And then finally, Microtech. I don't know how much I have negative to say about them here. I think they are a great company. I think the warranty, it depends on what kind of parts break, but they will charge you to fix certain things with the warranty from what I have read. They are expensive, but you know, you're getting a really high quality of craftsmanship when you get a Microtech. So, you know, you're paying for what you get at the very least. You know that they're not going to break on you. And I think, again, this is purely me reading stuff online. I think it does take a little longer for Microtech to get products through warranty and ship back to you than some of these other companies do. So it's just something to keep in mind. Hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any other thoughts or things that I missed about any of these companies, please feel free to comment them. I tried to be as open and transparent as possible with all these companies. You know, Benchmade has been really frustrating lately, so I don't want to be too overly negative towards them. But they are all great. They really are all great companies that make a great product, and I think you'll be happy with it, whatever one you purchase. Just make sure you go in, hold it in your hand, make sure it fits your hand, and see what you like. But I hope this has been helpful no matter your level of experience. Just something to discuss and talk about as all these companies evolve throughout the years. There's lots of new stuff coming out, which is really cool to see. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the support. Thank you for those of you who are subscribed. I really appreciate it. The support means a lot. And make sure you are staying tuned for the next couple of videos that come out. Thanks.